Do you remember a couple of years ago when I told you this thing that always bothered me about Kody and Robyn? How they genuinely seem to believe they're more spiritual, more evolved, more enlightened than everyone else. Almost like Kody sees himself as some kind of mouthpiece for God, receiving messages, delivering prophecies, and Robyn truly buys into that idea. They act as if they're spiritually elevated above other people, like they know something everyone else doesn't. And honestly, it's always felt unsettling, borderline cult-like. Well, last night's episode finally pulled the curtain back. And I don't love using this word, but they really exposed how delusional those beliefs are. It all centered around Kody's so-called apology, where he claimed he needed to release the women, as if it were his role to set them free. He actually framed it like this was necessary because it's 2026 and women are no longer property. Let that sink in. And of course, Suki did absolutely nothing to challenge this. She just let Kody, this narcissist with a full-blown God complex, sit there and pretend that women needed his permission to move on when in reality they were the ones who left him. Yep, that really happened. David, on the other hand, was furious. And honestly, I get why. I actually like David because he sees Kody exactly for who he is. He has this man completely figured out. He understands how Kody thinks, what motivates him, why he says the things he does. He reads him perfectly. Meanwhile, Janelle is still being naive, still convincing herself, maybe because of her NDA, that Kody's apology was sincere. It was really Christine and David who brought the energy that fully exposed what's going on here. Kody and Robyn's cult-like marriage and the control that comes with it. Kody didn't just slip up. He exposed himself as a cult leader. Even everyone else seemed to agree that David needed to be present to keep Kody from doing anything inappropriate. And that alone raises a big question. What exactly were they afraid Kody might do? Janelle and Mary both met with him privately before, and while nothing extreme happened, Kody definitely tried. He flirted heavily with Janelle. Till the whole debate about whether David should have been there misses the point. He was invited. End of story. Then Kody tried another move, saying David has no right to have an opinion about him because he doesn't really know him. He just thinks he does. And that's when David finally spoke up. Let's flip the situation for a second. Imagine you're out at dinner with your husband and his ex-wife. Suddenly, that ex-wife starts gushing about how much she loved your husband. She talks about how magical and beautiful their relationship was, how incredible the journey felt, how amazing life was back then. Just pause and think, what does that sound like? Because it sure doesn't sound like an apology. That sounds like someone planting emotional seeds. Like someone saying, I still have feelings for you. If you're genuinely sorry, you don't talk like that. Everyone could see it for what it was. Kody wasn't being reflective. He was spewing venom. It was inappropriate, full stop. Kody has no boundaries. Whether it's an ex-wife, a current wife, a husband, none of it matters to him. Him going around saying these things to multiple women while Robyn is his wife is completely out of line. And here's the real issue Kody has with David. David has been around arrogant, narcissistic, polygamist men for decades. His sisters were married to them. He knows exactly how these men operate. He knows how they treat women. He understands their tactics. So when David asks a simple question like, do you want to hang out in Moab? That's actually a test. Because if Kody truly wanted reconciliation, if he genuinely wanted to move forward and do better, he would take that step. He would show interest. He would try to build a bridge, especially considering he still shares a minor daughter with Christine. David is now helping raise that child. Wouldn't you want to know the man raising your kid? But Kody doesn't. And that tells you everything. This was never about reconciliation. It was always about Kody, his ego, his control, and his selfish motives. And honestly, David is right to question this. Where is Robyn? Why isn't she there? Why does she always stay conveniently separate whenever Kody is having these heavy, emotional conversations? Doesn't she care what her husband is saying or doing? And to this day, the answer is still no. Robyn's excuse has always been the same. She claims she wanted plural marriage, yet somehow insists that Kody's relationships with other women have nothing to do with her. Think about that for a second. What? What makes it even stranger is that she says this while wearing an expression that clearly suggests she knows it's wrong. You can see it on her face. She recognizes the inappropriateness, but then she turns around and says something like, well, if David were enlightened enough, he'd understand that hearing that very inappropriate statement would help Christine heal. What? Christine left Kody. Kody didn't leave Christine, she walked away from him. So why on earth would she need to hear him say, I loved you? How does that heal anything? That's not why Christine left. She left because he treated her terribly. She left because he neglected her children. She left because he didn't go to her daughter's surgery. She left because his choices nearly cost her daughter her life. She left because he financially abused her for years. 'Cause he emotionally neglected her. 'Cause he psychologically wore her down. So how does him saying, I loved you, fix any of that? It doesn't. You only believe something like that if you think you're above other people. If you think that person still belongs to you. If you believe you're some kind of God whose words have the power to heal. And if you don't understand that logic, well then, according to Robyn, you're just not enlightened enough. Not evolved enough. Not on the same spiritual path as Kody and Robyn. That's Robyn Brown's mindset. David also pointed out something else that hit hard. Robyn claims she wants polygamy, yet she doesn't show up for situations that directly involve her husband. She avoids the family stuff. She avoids the ex-family stuff. She still wants to stay separate, even though she begged for plural marriage in the first place. And when Suki brings it up, Robyn doubles down, saying again that if David were more enlightened, he would accept it. And I love that David immediately shut that down. He basically said, that doesn't make sense. It's not logical. It's not common sense. It's just a story they've created because they believe they're so spiritually superior. And he even laughs at the idea of Kody and Robyn being so enlightened. Meanwhile, Suki keeps trying, really trying, to twist things so everyone can see Kody and Robyn's perspective. Mary sometimes entertains it. Janelle sometimes entertains it. But David is done. His energy is basically, don't even bring me these people and their ridiculous beliefs. What they think is normal isn't normal. Then Kody takes it even further and says that if he wants to tell Christine that he still loves her, he will. That moment? That needs to be clipped and turned into a meme because it's going to live forever in Sister Wives history. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't true. Let that sink in. 'Cause ladies and gentlemen, that is literally the definition of a lie. If something isn't true and you say it anyway, you lied. When I said I didn't love her, that wasn't a lie. It wasn't true. What? How Suki managed to sit across from him with a straight face is beyond me. I remember someone once saying that Kody has an extremely high opinion of himself, that he genuinely thinks he's an important celebrity. And honestly, you could see it when he dismissed David by saying, he works in construction. He talks about things I don't talk about. That comment is no different from Robyn saying, well, maybe if he were more enlightened, he would understand. Both of them are saying the same thing in different ways. David is too stupid to understand them. He's not smart enough to recognize Kody's supposed healing powers and the greatness of his words. And then Kody actually says, if I want to say to Christine today that I love her, I'll say it. Not past tense, present tense. Today. He truly believes he could walk up to Christine right now and say, I love you, and that wouldn't cross any lines. That it wouldn't be disrespectful. That it wouldn't matter. And then Suki brings this right back to the group, acting as a mediator all over again. Why does she even have to be the mediator here? Why can't they just talk to each other directly? Why is Suki acting like a messenger, running conversations back and forth? It's absurd. And none of it moved David at all. He made it very clear that he doesn't even want to understand what Kody is saying, because to him, it's so far gone. What I really respect about David is that he refuses to entertain this kind of rhetoric. He recognizes it for what it is, deeply abusive and intensely misogynistic. And honestly, that's something that has always bothered me about TLC's approach. Why do they consistently put women in the position of interviewing Kody? And I say journalist very loosely here because there's no real journalism happening. They're placing a female interviewer in a role where she's expected to justify and soften ideas that are misogynistic and dangerous. Ideas like these are not harmless. They are the same beliefs that have historically stripped women of their rights, their autonomy, and their ability to make choices for themselves. These beliefs are used to justify women living in servitude to men, and they're the same frameworks that fuel sex trafficking, labor trafficking, and systemic abuse. And TLC, by doing this, is asking a woman to help perpetuate those tropes. David doesn't even want to step into that space. And honestly, good for him. Someone commented on one of my recent videos and said, "Did you notice David said he would never allow Christine to go there, or that he would never have agreed to it?" And they called that a huge red flag. And I was like, okay, let's actually talk about that. Kody Brown is an abuser. He is a dangerous man. He is known to possess weapons. He has repeatedly shown that he doesn't believe laws apply to him. Over and over again, he has demonstrated that he's willing to abuse people, use people, and hurt people to get what he wants. He has no respect for anyone's humanity, individuality, or personhood. In Kody's world, only Kody has rights. So when David says he doesn't even want to consider Kody's point of view, that makes sense. 'Cause that point of view is toxic. It is abusive. When David says Kody's thinking is so far out in left field, that's exactly what he means. But then Suki keeps pressing him, trying to force him to understand. And honestly, that's where it becomes disturbing. She is trying to relay this message to the husband of a woman who escaped an abusive relationship, and asking him to accept the idea that the abusive ex-husband believes he alone has the power to free her. That the only way Christine can truly move on is if Kody releases her, if he declares that he loved her, and then, only then, she can heal. Do you hear how abusive and misogynistic that sounds? And it's all being cloaked in this language of spirituality. This was his testimony. God told him to do this. What God? In what world would a higher power endorse a man having 4 wives while financially abusing them, neglecting their children, refusing to pay child support, refusing to pay for health insurance, barely seeing his kids, and allowing them to live close to poverty? A man who then puts those women on a reality show, profits from it financially, takes the money and uses it to fund his own lifestyle, spoiling the newest wife because she boosts ratings. And then he expects the husband of the woman who escaped his abuse to accept the idea that he still holds the key to her freedom, even though she's been married for more than 2 years, even though she's been with David for over 3. What? Christine was done with Kody the moment she married David, and honestly, she was done long before that. If she had still been emotionally tied to Kody, she wouldn't have remarried. Their relationship had been broken for nearly a decade. They barely interacted outside of filming. To act like she's newly single, confused, or unable to move on is ridiculous. And then to force her husband to sit there and entertain this narrative? That's abuse. Full stop. And TLC is complicit in it. I was recently talking to someone who knows Mary, or at least knows people close to her, and they told me that people in Mary's life are begging her to leave the show, to get away from Kody completely. 'Cause as long as he has any presence in her life, he still has the ability to abuse her. They want her off the show because, in their eyes, he's still abusing her. And this situation right here is a perfect example of how Kody is still abusing Christine, and by extension, abusing her husband too. David is absolutely right to call it out for what it is. Think about what's being said here. Is Suki really asking him to accept that Christine can only be released if Kody releases her? What is she supposed to be, a slave? Does he own her? Is she his property? Because that's exactly how these women have been treated. Like property. Like cattle. Like they exist to work, obey, and produce at the command of a man. And for the first time on this show, someone finally says it out loud. Kody treats women like property. He never had a claim over Christine. He never legally married her. He has never had legal rights to her, ever. She does not need his permission to do anything. She doesn't need him to say a single word in order to move on. And he absolutely does not get to decide when or how she heals. Yes, Christine likely still carries trauma from what she went through. Of course she does. But that doesn't mean she isn't over Kody. Those are 2 completely different things. She's over him. She may never fully get over what he did to her. And that's because what he did was abusive. And here's the thing, it is classic abuser behavior to tell the person you abuse to stop talking about the abuse. And that's not going to happen, nor should it. Thank goodness Christine has a good husband now. Truly. It was such a relief to see that. And honestly, it's only going to get spicier next week. Watching David pop off at Kody and Robyn, really laying bare how delusional and unhealthy they are, was powerful. 'Cause this is sick. What we're finally seeing is the dark, depraved, deeply disturbing side of polygamy. The side that people like to gloss over. Kody is a creep, and Robyn is right there with him. Tell me what you think in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and don't forget to click the bell so you never miss a video.